Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show, the Week 10 preview show. Just breaking down all of the action for today, Sunday, November 12th, 2023. I'm going to welcome in my co-host, Trader Dan, along with Fantasy Clown. We're going to jump right into the first Germany game today, just coming up in a couple hours. And Indianapolis at New England. Who are you going to use in fantasy, Dan, in this game?
Well, I don't have many players in this game to actually even put in. I have Zach Moss. I'm putting him in my starting lineup. Let me pull him up here. Only more because of need, not necessarily because I like the matchup. I think with Jonathan Taylor back into full swing, you're seeing what's going on with Zach Moss's production. It's going down. Hoping he could just contribute in the passing game a little bit, maybe sneak in a touchdown, give me double-digit points, and help my team. But I really like Michael Pittman in this one. I think he's due for a big game. And I think that in general, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I feel like a lot of these early games, cross country, are low scoring. I don't think that it's tough to adapt. You know what I mean? It's 9:30 our time. It's these players, they're in such routine, and the way they take care of their bodies and their sleep schedules and their patterns. I think that anytime you throw kind of a mix into that, I think it actually hurts the offense more than us, helps the defense. How do you think?
Well, I tend to agree that it's low scoring. I was kind of looking over some of my players, and I think I start people out of necessity as opposed to wanting to. Demario Douglas is a question mark in my mind. He's questionable, and I'm just kind of waiting for the inactives to come out because that seems to be something that is worth monitoring. Whenever players go across the seas and then they're on the questionable tag, I feel like the injury report that we got for the week is a little bit weird, and I don't remember him getting hurt last week, so I guess I'm a little bit annoyed, I guess, that I didn't either know or something. So I've Demarius.
He traveled with the team though, right?
He did. He did go. So typically that means they play, but
especially going there.
Yeah, I still remember, and they didn't take J.C. Jackson along, so they are of the mindset that if you piss us off, we're not taking you. So I guess I mean, I don't know. Josh Downs, another, I guess, game time decision.
Yeah, he's questionable as well.
And I guess I heard that he's on the right side of questionable, but early in the week I heard he was on the wrong side of questionable. So I guess, whenever those injuries creep up late in the week, or I got wind that he wasn't going to play, like I did hear that early in the week he wasn't going to play, and now, I'm just still seeing the questionable tag, but it sounds like he's going to play. So I guess those are two things. So I would be fading Pittman unless I saw Downs isn't going to play, because I guess I feel like Downs is the possession guy that they tend to go to. But I do like Jonathan Taylor. I guess that feels like ground and pound, and that feels like something that makes some sense, and I think it's going to keep increasing. Where I have Moss and I'm playing him, it's because I have to play Moss, and it is. I mean, I guess I did take your advice on Thursday, and I know we had on our preview show for that fade everybody, and I did fade everybody except for Foreman, and so that seemed to work out pretty well. The only guy that had a touchdown on offense, I guess you could have had an offensive player if you were really deep, but in the return game. But I feel like that was a good move. So it's going to be I thought about going to breakfast this morning during that game, so probably won't even watch that game. I mean, that just isn't.
There's not much intrigue to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I have enough tiredness from watching the Thursday night game. I did watch that.
Hey, just think I got to watch the Giants Cowboys yet today.
Well, you can watch that, but at least I'm going to see my DFS lineup. I guess I don't want to give too much of that away, but I have some players in that game that they'll play. Looking at Cleveland, Baltimore, that was like the early slate, and it's going to be a short early slate, so it'll be interesting. To 6 games on the docket today at 1:00. Cleveland, Baltimore, a divisional game. Usually they are. Speaking of defense, usually this game is full of defense, ground and pound.
Yeah, I think another low scoring game, divisional rival game. I just think Baltimore's a lot better of a football team than the Browns. Even with the Browns playing good defense, I just don't see Deshaun Watson being able to go in and beat Lamar. And I think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I think Baltimore handles it pretty easily. I don't think it's gonna be a close game.
So you think that they'll be able to put up numbers on the
I think
Cleveland defense, or do you think the Baltimore defense will take one to the house and that'll be the?
Yeah, I think I don't think at any point it's going to come down to the final possession.
Okay.
I don't. I'm not sold on the Browns. I'm not sold on Deshaun Watson. I know he played well last week, but he had a couple lucky tip balls. Amari Cooper for a touchdown, and I just think the way Baltimore, they're able to control possession of the ball for so long, they can just wear down that Browns defense eventually. And I just don't think the Browns got enough firepower to come back at them.
So I guess I feel like, anything happens in those kind of divisional games. I mean,
Yep.
all four teams are in the playoffs as the season ends today, so that's interesting. With one division having such good records, but it's in Baltimore, and Baltimore seems to be now becoming a really tough place to play. Even for the divisional rivals that go there every year, Baltimore week is a thing. I also, if Nick Chubb was around, that would make more sense. Like, this would all make more sense to me. However, I am playing the Cleveland defense. I do have a team that is full defensive playing, and so I'm kind of I debated that a little bit, but I'm going to fire up the Cleveland defense. I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to do it every week. They had their bye in week 5, and you know what? I'll just probably play it until they don't, unless everything's all relative, right? But I'm not really feeling like they're a streamer for me. So they're just start them until it doesn't make sense anymore. It's kind of my attitude, and
we're talking a top 5 defense. No matter how you look at it, and it's just as easy to see Baltimore possibly struggle Baltimore should compete in so many different ways.
Yeah, I guess I think in defense is really it just means that Gus Bus fumbles once or Keontae, and they just fumble once and they take one to the house like that. That handles the defensive points for the day. You only need one pick six. You only need one of that, and then I guess I feel like the back end, the front end.
You're streaming them in your fantasy or your DFS?
No, I'm not. They're too expensive in DFS. No, I have I think I have like 4 or 5 teams that have team defenses in it, as a thing, and they're at least on one team, I ended up with, that's what I kind of do is I stream until I end up with one that makes a lot of sense, and I just stay with them. And I was looking recently to see, okay, do I want to make a change for next week? So a lot of times I'll get a week ahead on my onesie players. So if it's a 1 quarterback league, I only try to hold 1 quarterback. If it's a 1 tight end league, I only try to hold 1 tight end. And then what I'll try to do is, like, come the weekend, if I have a roster spot or have a thing that I can do something with, I'll look ahead to the next week and say, okay, who would I pick on waivers? I may as well just pick them now and save the waiver claim. And so, I think I did that a couple weeks ago when we play in the league together, the Elite 8, and I did that when Laporta was going to buy. The week before I picked up Ferguson and just kind of hit him there, and there he goes. And actually, it became this like dilemma that I hate in fantasy football this week, where I have these 2 guys on my team, and I'm like, who do I start? Like, it was really came down to Laporta or Ferguson, and as we break down those games, we'll get to them a little bit. But that's kind of the thing. So that's my take on the Cleveland Baltimore game. Houston Cincinnati, just another. I feel like this is a snoozer too, but tell me what you think and what's going on with the Cincinnati receivers. Obviously.
Yeah, we have to get the injury part. We see T. Higgins is out.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's tough to say you're going to fade Jamar Chase, but with his injury the way it is and so close to game time, one tackle and he could be listen,
Back injury. Yeah.
yeah, I can't go. I tried. He's a really tough person to trust this week. Obviously, if he plays, you start him.
Yeah,
there's
that's
not many people.
I was just going to ask you that. Like, so I have bought a lot of Chase of recent times, and I felt like, what do you do with him? I am starting him. Like where
But I don't know if I go chase him in DFS this week. I mean, fantasy football is a little different because your team is your team. But I don't know that I go DFS. And if he has a phenomenal game, you know what? Hats off to the people that took him. But to me, it's just the risk to reward is going to be difficult. And I think that could be a high scoring game between these two teams. I think there'd be a lot of points out.
Do you think that Tyler Irwin would be a play if Chase, especially if Chase doesn't play? I mean, is that worth it, or Boyd is the guy and that's where it is?
It could be Irv Smith for all we know. You know what I mean? It could be anyone from Cincinnati that draws the extra targets and has the touchdown. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who. Me, I stay away from it in general.
Yeah.
If I don't know or don't have any type of inclination, I just don't go and say, oh, there's potential there. Now, if you're looking for a dark horse to score, score a touchdown and a plus 450 payout or something of that, then why not? I mean, he's probably going to get a couple targets, but as far as, going out there to put your fantasy football on the line, I don't know that I'd take that chance either.
On Ja'Marr Chase, I guess, I added him in 8 trades this year to my team. So I bought 8 shares of him this year in Dynasty. So I thought, okay, so I had gotten a couple of them in redraft. I have 11 shares, so I had 3 in redraft. But this was the year I kind of went out and bought Ja'Marr Chase. So
not bad. He was struggling early, so you got him at probably a discount.
I bought him I feel like I bought him at the right price. I mean, sometimes the one that sticks out in my head was the Tua for him straight up trade. And interesting, we'll have a trade to break down in this game. I did go and producer Brad, I got Irv Smith from him in a league last night.
Saw that for a second round pick.
And so we'll break that down in trade time. But that was kind of with this idea of what you said, that Irv Smith might be a player. Yeah. And I was starting Will Dissly in a team that, I'd like to see go to the playoffs. So, I felt like Irv Smith is.
I think he's a good play this week, regardless of Ja'Marr Chase, especially with T. Higgins going out.
Yeah. Well, and somebody's going to get the ball. And my attitude was, well, they're going to throw it to somebody. And this is a guy I can play every week in my two tight ends.
It feels like a game that they could just start airing the ball out, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I also felt like if I didn't buy him this week, the price might get high. It could get high in a hurry.
He had a good game last week, so if he rolls back-to-back weeks, people are going to start either stashing him or wanting top dollar for him. And why when you can get him cheap now?
And I know it's off bad, but we were talking about. I was basically to share with Brad everything I knew, and we just thought a seconds probably is the right price. Like I mean, he kind of offered him. He's like, hey, I was telling him I need a tight end. And he's like, I have Irv Smith, and then we were looking at what's really in clown heads. And, he's like, I don't think he's worth a first probably. But at this moment, and I said, after about a week, he probably will be.
He's young. I mean, he's still got some legs left in him.
Well, and that's kind of why I said it made sense for me. It's, I felt like a second is what Brad can replace him. I mean, you can get Laporta. If you're lucky, you get Laporta in the second. And if you're not lucky, you get Musgrave from Green Bay in the second. Cole Kmet types have been second-round picks pretty consistently. And I was like, I just want to buy Irv Smith now. Like, that's really the only difference between them. I take any of them. You give me any of them for the, if that's what it is. So. And he laughed and he said he's going to just draft a running back because that's what he drafts. And so, I said, well, you can just draft your tight end. You may as well draft any of those guys. I don't think there's any misses at the tight end in the second round. Like, I feel like they all become something. There's not really the tight end miss, so to speak. I'm like, well, draft running backs, then you'll probably miss because
Yeah.
all the second round running backs always screw up.
Isaiah Spillers, Amir White.
Yeah, just
Swing and a miss. I had them all.
yeah. I mean, well, there's even misses in the first round of running backs.
Yeah.
Trey Sermon. I mean, Michael Carter. Yeah. So anyway, San Francisco, Jacksonville. Oh, full of fantasy goodness. And I guess we didn't talk about Houston even. What on the Houston side? Who's good in fantasy? I see that there's no Nico Collins this week. So does that mean anything for Tank Dell, for Robert Woods?
Yeah. Well, Woods just has a questionable mark as well. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him today.
John Mechie.
I think
John Mechie got a bunch of points. I'm scared of John Mechie, but what do you think of?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I want to see first.
Yeah, me too.
I'd rather be the guy getting in late than the guy looking like a fool and he, one catch for 12 yards.
Well, and it could be. I mean, I guess I was thinking if Woods is out, Mechie could be a let's go guy, but I'm going to let somebody else take the plunge. I'll let him go. Let's go on my bench. That's okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I saw in Jeff Radcliffe's rankings that Tank Dell crept up into wide receiver 10 this week, and I felt like a nice, wide receiver 1 is a thing. So I was like, wow, okay, he might be up to a good, and if we have D Hop at wide receiver 11 and Mike Evans at wide receiver 12, Garrett Wilson wide receiver 13, so that gives you a little bit of context of. Tank Dell above all those guys.
Well, I think it's more to do with opportunity than
right. Well, and weekly, but I do expect a big performance out of Tank Dell.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco, Jacksonville. That
I think we're in for a treat with this game.
Yeah, who's going to win the game?
I think San Francisco kind of rights the ship and coming off their bye week.
Should be a point.
I think that they get back on track. They lost a couple in a row, but boy, oh boy, they just still seem like the most complete team. You see, but you see how fast it changes, right? I mean, Brock Purdy was riding a high. Now they're talking about benching him. Not that I think he should be benched, but but I just think that San Francisco's defense is going to play much better. I think that's where their biggest problem has been. Is really their defense. I mean, Brock Purdy made a couple of bonehead, interceptions that he shouldn't have, but that defense usually locks it down,
And Chase Young being there after the bye, I mean, that's got to probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Chase Young isn't your primary problem, I think Chase Young could be a lot better football player. I mean, he didn't really show much in Washington as far as I was concerned, but I do feel. I
mean, he was a baller his rookie year. So
yeah, I mean, but he's kind of fallen off the map. But I do think that once you walk into that building as a 49er, you're held to a higher standard, and I think that that's going to show. And I think that that'll help. I think it'll really help Chase out, and I think his production will increase. I just think they're going to wreak havoc. And I think their linebacker core is enough to keep ETN in check. I don't think ETN's going to go crazy. Not that I don't think he can have a good game, but I just don't see him going haywire. And I think the Niners pull it off. But I think it's going to be a higher scoring game.
I mean, I'm obviously an Ayuk apologist. Didn't play him in DFS this week, but I feel good about starting him where I have him. I mean, Ayuk's good. I mean, obviously CMC, just start him because that's what you do. Kittle, what do you think of Kittle? Do you start him?
Yeah, I mean, he's tight end 3?
Yeah.
For the bye last week. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I was even looking at Radcliffe's tight ends, and I thought he had him pretty high. Kittle, he has him at 7. But yeah, I mean, that's, I was like, okay. What about on the Jacksonville side? I am really high on Ingram this week. I was looking at his targets, and
he gets a lot of targets.
I mean, it was like he had 5 in week 1, and that was the low point. And I was like, okay, Zay Jones was there at that time. With no Zay Jones this week, I feel like, the 11, the 8, the couple with 8, the couple with 7s. I mean, 7s the last couple of weeks, and I mean, I just feel like he's against the 49ers, they're not going to throw tons of targets at Ridley. They're not going to throw tons of targets at Kirk. I mean, not when I say tons, 14, 15, I don't think. So then somebody's going to get the football. I mean, yeah, ETN, you bring up a good point, ETN. I was like, well, even if ETN has a game, then Ingram's still going to have a game. Like, they're still high flying. I think it's a scoring fest. I do.
Totally.
And Jacksonville, I don't know. I was trying to figure out if it was a get right game for Jacksonville, because I think they're going to have a get right game at 6-2. But I think you're right. Coming off the bye, I find it hard to believe that San Francisco's going to come out and tank, and not play well.
Yeah.
New Orleans at Minnesota, 5-4 records, both of them. What do you see here? Who are you playing? What do you think is going to be the winner?
I think the Saints win. I do.
Okay.
I do. Minnesota, they started off rocky. Dobbs come in, kind of saved the day. But I think when you know that Dobbs is going to be the starter, I think you can better prepare your defense. Maybe have your spy. It's where I don't think that Atlanta was kind of expecting Dobbs, or at least, well, clearly they weren't expecting Dobbs.
No, I don't think they were. No,
he came in and looked like an all-pro quarterback. But he was 1-7 as a quarterback in Arizona or whatever. The one win.
Weapons are a little better in Minnesota, though.
They are a little bit better, but I just think that I just can't see him being that much better for Minnesota where they could beat New Orleans.
Now, are you worried about the Michael Thomas throwing bricks through windows? Or
that was I saw it. I kind of really didn't follow it. Yeah, it's concerning. Absolutely. Anytime you get one of your, quote unquote star players arrested on a Friday night, it's concerning. It's going to bring stuff to the team, to the building, to the media. The guys are going to talk about it. The best thing that probably the Saints could have done this week was just probably suspend them a week.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, does it mean that Olave has a week? Captain checked down his car. I'm starting Carr place. And it's not even out of need because I have other quarterbacks in most cases.
I agree. I think Derek Carr has a big game today.
Yeah, I can see that all happening. But what I will say is that I like the Minnesota defense. I think Brian Flores, everywhere he's ever been, he just seems to. His defense might not be the best at the beginning of the year, but at the end of the year, it's the best. Even New England, Miami, Pittsburgh, now Minnesota. Like, it just seems like it's all coming of age, and so that's where I went with the home team. I'm like, I think Minnesota will win, but it's not because I do agree with everything you said about the quarterback Dobbs. I do think that Addison and Hawk alarm. Now, I did see the Hawk alarm is questionable again. So that could be a big thing, but I guess I'm worried about all the outside noise to New Orleans, because I don't think that New Orleans handled the outside noise well with Michael Thomas before. Like, I felt like when he didn't play, it was just like this thing. When they didn't have Kamara, it was a thing. Like, I just feel like they're not like other teams. So there's some teams that really handle noise well. I don't know that New Orleans rallies behind noise very well. Like, it seems like it affects them negatively. So I guess that was my theory. But I guess I was always on Minnesota the whole week. So that confirmed that I thought Minnesota was going to win. Not, but I did think that hey, when you scheme for Josh Dobbs, that'll be a different game. Like, I don't know. Is it high scoring or low scoring? Like, I don't even know if the fantasy assets make any sense.
New Orleans got a top 10 defense.
Yeah,
but I think it's high scoring. I think it's more of a shootout type thing. I don't think it's going to be a ground and pound, run it, punt it. I think it's going to be. Yeah. I think it's going to be passing. I think it's going to be a lot of some deep balls, some trick plays with Taysom Hill. And I think Minnesota's going to have to combat it with throwing the ball. To be honest with you, I don't see that running game. You're going to be able to see more guys in the box to try to stop the run, make Dobbs beat you. And I'm not saying Dobbs can't beat you. I think he's played exceptionally well. Phenomenal backup quarterback. But I just think at the end of the day, the Saints will have more firepower, is how I feel. With Kamara.
28-24. Yeah, 28-24 feels like the score to me, like a 27-24 or something like that.
Yeah, if I was betting the game, I'd be Saints and over.
Okay, gotcha. Green Bay, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think we're in for a defensive battle here.
3-5, Green Bay. Yeah. Wow, and Pittsburgh 5-3. They're winning just like they do.
They win close games too. I think shaky quarterback play, to say the least. With Love and Pickett, neither one of them really kind of.
But kind of the tale of two seasons. I mean, Jordan Love at the first 3 games, everybody thought he was the second coming of Aaron Rodgers and the third coming of Brett Favre. Kind of thing. So
I always say you'll know what kind of quarterback you get when you hit November, December, because anyone can go in a dome with 0 elements, just turf, no wet fields, nothing, and play well. But what do you do in November in the grass field and it's raining and it's snowy and it's cold? And I think you're going to start to see really what these quarterbacks are.
So are you talk about the running backs, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren? Who do you want of that bunch, of that duel?
I'm just not a huge fan of Najee. I just, the production isn't there. The unfortunate thing is I don't think they use Jaylen Warren enough. I've got Jaylen Warren on my team, and I want to find a place to start him, but it's just like, he's consistent. He's consistent double digit. You're going to get double digits out of Jaylen Warren no matter what. It's just, if Najee got hurt, Jaylen Warren, to me, is a top 10 running back. For the little production he gets, little touches that he gets, his production is phenomenal. You don't get enough of them, and I think for that, it's if I was going to take a running back out of this game, I'd go get Aaron Jones.
Okay, well, so that was my next question: is do you like Aaron Jones? Or do you like AJ Dillon?
I think Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is going to be the bell cow this week. I think he's going to be the guy that gets more 20+ touches. They're going to ride him. You seen a little bit of that last week. He's healthy again. They're taking the Band-Aid off of him and letting him go. As long as he stays healthy, he doesn't get hurt. Pittsburgh's run defense isn't always the best, and you're going to want to keep Pittsburgh on their toes. You're not going to want to turn this into a passing-only game. Let T.J. Watt just come free off the edge and smack your quarterback up every time you drop back. So I think they're going to try to push the ball with Aaron Jones, give him 20, 25 touches. I think he's the guy that you're going to want out of all 4 of the running backs today.
Okay. And so as you probably will see, coming up, I've been buying AJ Dillon. That's been my little fascination, and it's the first year I'm doing it, so it's not like it's like a crush on him or something. But so that's kind of where I'm there. What about the receivers? We looked at last week I felt like Deontay had a million targets and Pickens had no targets. And so what do you make of that? And
I still think it's Deontay for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not saying Pickens couldn't have a better game because of his deep threat and his end zone threat. But Deontay is the target guy. He's the possession guy. He's the first read in that offense. Pickett's going to go to him as many times as he can. But don't be surprised if you don't see Pickett, with 3 or 4 catches, high yardage with a touchdown type deal. But Green Bay's defense they're good. They're good. So we'll see.
And then what about on the Green Bay side of the receivers? And I guess looking at I don't know, Dobbs or Watkins or
I'm for a touchdown today. That's what I'm betting.
Well, I mean, who gets the targets? Jalen Reed or Musgrave? I mean, who of that is like the number one? I guess we'll say.
I don't know. It varies week to week. Dobbs, to me, Dobbs is their best receiver. He could stretch the field. He makes phenomenal catches. He's a phenomenal red zone target. They don't throw to him enough, or at least consistently enough. He'll go from 9 targets to 3 targets. It's okay. So one week you're the 1, the next week you're the 4th.
It feels a little bit like Deontay Johnson and how it all started for him, and then if we go back to even Adams, it took till midway. It might have been year 3 till Aaron Rodgers. Now that Aaron Rodgers, different quarterback, didn't trust the receivers. I mean, I get all that, but it just feels like they're just figuring out how the targets go to me. At week 10, I haven't seen enough from Dobbs that if I can, I'm not starting him anymore in fantasy football. Like I've kind of decided that, I guess to give some context to who I'm starting over, Dodson, coming on strong. Now I'm starting over him, where week 5, I was probably starting Dobbs over Dodson. So just kind of just how the cookies crumble in a little differently today than it was then. Pickens is a guy that I don't have a ton of, but I've just kind of watched and I've been like, there's rumors at the beginning of the year that he might be the best receiver in football, and then that didn't materialize into being the best receiver in football. So I'm just kind of trying to figure it all out. And I don't think he's Jalen Reagor, but I'm trying to figure out what he is. I don't think he's Justin Jefferson either. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, okay, from that, is he Jerry Jeudy? Like did he end up in the middle? I don't think he's
well, even if he turns out to be a Jerry Jeudy, that's not a bad.
No.
It's not a bad thing. It's just, if that's a ceiling, that's a ceiling. You know what I mean? It's.
Or is he CD Lamb? Just kind of, these are all guys that we were drafting in that first round, and trying to figure out what he really is for the Steelers and in their sort of situation. And some of those guys were also coming in as like number 2s at that time. If you think about Jeudy going in with Cortland Sutton and I guess Ruggs was the number 1, but I feel like a lot of these guys were coming in and there was a number 1 around them, and you were wondering. I remember Justin Jefferson. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's a slot receiver," and they already have Thielen, so he's not going to be good. And like that was the theory. And CD Lamb, that was a pick out of riches because they had Amari Cooper, and they're like, "Oh, you don't really need CD Lamb. There's no purpose for him." And just kind of watching the evolving of it, it's kind of interesting. Tennessee, Tampa Bay, Will Levis coming off what are we going to get with him?
This is a great week to kind of really see where he is. You had a couple weeks of film on him, so teams can kind of game plan for him. He's going up against Tampa Bay that just got absolutely lit up by CJ Stroud. So you can see. Wait, no, it wasn't CJ Stroud, was it? Did CJ Stroud was the one that just lit Tampa Bay up?
No,
was it Dobbs? Who was it that just lit him up?
I don't know who he played. I remember it being a Thursday night game, and we felt like he.
Will Levis with the 4 touchdowns?
No, the week after that, Levis played somebody that I thought he actually played better last week, even though he didn't have the stats to show, but I felt like we saw what he was.
No. CJ Stroud lit up Tampa Bay last week. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and now Will Levis gets his chance this week. So that's what I'm saying is I think he got a really good chance to see kind of where Will Levis is. He's got a favorable matchup, which you want to see in a rookie. And they got a couple weeks that they game plan against him, so they can kind of see his tendencies. You can kind of see where, the first game you couldn't tell. I mean, he just lit it up, Will Levis. Second game, he looked good. He looked good against Pittsburgh on the road.
Yeah.
But now I see Tampa Bay, a favorable matchup for Levis. If he goes out and 250 plus yards, a couple touchdown passes, 1 or less turnovers, I think that's a great game for Will Levis.
Does the touchdowns matter? I mean, if you have Derrick Henry in the backfield and he runs in,
it matters for fantasy production.
Well, it does in that respect, but I mean, as far as to see if Will Levis is it, I mean, I guess I'm not. Even if Will Levis throws 1 touchdown,
Yeah.
And Henry has 3, and the offense churns in 28 points. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, you know
As
what?
far as the offense in general, yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean the 250 feels like a good barometer to me because I
Yeah.
feel like okay, but how they actually put it in the end zone is less important to me because I feel like geez, you have Derrick Henry, so it could be a pounded in from the red zone Derrick Henry day that
But Will Levis is that deep shot guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he wants to throw that 60-yard touchdown pass.
Oh, he does, and
he hits that midfield line. He's looking for the end zone. I think it's great. I think it's a lot easier to score from the 50 than it is the 5.
well, I mean, you have
more room to work with.
Receivers there. Who are you liking in the Tennessee receiving game?
Well, obviously you got to D Hop's his number 1 target.
Do you like Okonkwo? Do you like Phillips? Do you like
it's all. I mean, look at last week. All those receivers had from the Texans had big games. And even the tight end Dalton Schultz had a huge game. So trying to go based off of what you saw last week, tied into what you've seen. I mean, Kyle Phillips when Tennessee against the Steelers had 3 or 4 nice catches last week, got up in the 50-yard range. I can see that again. I just see a lot of passing in this game. I think a lot of the receivers, tight ends, and both sides are going to have good
really
games, fantasy production wise.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it'll be maybe a little bit higher scoring for what it is. Just kind of some fireworks. Just
Baker likes to air it out too, man.
Yeah, no, I
got Mike Evans running down that sideline. He likes to just put it up there for him.
He seems to really vibe well with Evans. That's what I was thinking about Phillips, is that I feel like they must have had some work on the second team. He and Will Levis. So sometimes when those guys come in that haven't started all year, they really vibe with the receiver that kind of comes up with them, so to speak, and that feels like what Phillips might be. So I agree. Let's see, Trey Palmer. Do you like him for Tampa Bay? He's like the number 3 receiver, and I feel like he's a guy that has flashed this year that I maybe didn't expect. And so, not that I'm starting him in my season-long teams, but he's an ad. He's a guy that I feel like it's good to stash. I mean, obviously in our 8-team.
Well, the receivers are getting older. Eventually he comes in. He's going to eventually replace the Mike Evans, and especially because Tampa, they're in that no man's land right now with their team. Are they good? Are they not good? Can Baker be the guy? I think they go quarterback and start younger at the end of the year, and just kind of maybe use Baker for a bridge quarterback, but it's just tough. You know what I mean? Baker's always been that 500 guy, and just never really the guy to get you over it, or never really the guy that you feel like, hey, this guy can win us a Super Bowl. He's just not. So eventually Tampa's just going to break it down, and guys like Trey Palmer and stuff are going to be the guy, the go-to guy.
Yeah, I mean, unless they draft another one, but yeah, I mean, I guess I did think that he showed some at least Darnell Mooney traits, where he could be potentially a possibility kind of guy, and then you see what he does when he gets the opportunity. Atlanta, Arizona, 4-5 against 1-8. Arizona now has Kyler back, though. Does that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because you think offensive explosions with Kyler coming back, and likes to throw the ball, and he can move the chains with his legs and score with his legs and do all these things. And I just don't know that he's going to have that leash to do that or the confidence to do it. Coming back off that ACL, is he going to want to take off and run? Is he going to stand in the pocket? Is he going to, extend plays with his legs? I don't know. It's a lot to be determined. We'll see. And Atlanta's tough because they like to run the ball too. So
it's such a tale of different teams, because I feel like one of the things that you hear from other NFL teams is that Arizona under Cliff Kingsbury was just tough to scheme for, right? Like they seriously were faster than everybody else. Like if the 49ers had an Achilles heel, it was playing Arizona on Thursday night. Like they just couldn't get ready for the game. Like it was just so much faster than everybody else in the NFL. Like everybody in the NFL is fast, I guess, but but Arizona was faster. You know, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
If we played them on Monday night, then typically you could get enough speed guys in to, get ready for it, and it was a little
Mhm.
bit easier. But I still remember that almost every time that there was going to be a Thursday night San Francisco game, Arizona will win the Thursday night game. Like, I just kind of remember it. It didn't matter how good San Francisco was; they could be undefeated, but that was the loss.
Mhm.
Kind of thing. And so that's on my mind a little bit. Is that Kyler Murray real fast? But I think I've landed on Atlanta even winning the game.
Yeah.
And I've landed on. I think this is where Bijan gets back to being a little bit more Bijan, and I think it's because he didn't just get bad. He didn't just get bad. They'll just up. All they need to do is up his count from 11 touches to 14 touches. That was where he had the big games, and I think that happens. As they just try to
It has
slow
to.
down that offense.
It has to happen.
Well, I just think that they're going to look to slow down the offense. Like, that's how they did this Heineke air it out. But when you play Arizona, we just talked about their speed. So how do you get rid of speed? You freaking control the ball. Well, who controls the ball much better than the Baltimore, Pittsburgh, the Browns, and Atlanta, right? These guys have this running attack, and maybe even Tennessee, in the old days, like they just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. They don't feed off the pass to run like the Eagles or the Dolphins or the 49ers. And I think this is where we'll see Atlanta come out on top 4-5 against 1-8. I don't know how much.
I like Atlanta in this one too.
I want to see how Kyler does. I know Brad said he's fired up Kyler a couple of places. I'm just
starting Dobbs over him.
What was that?
I'm starting Dobbs over Kyler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good context. I just don't have him starting anywhere, Kyler, this week. I just want to see it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who I might have started over him.
And you got to remember too. I mean, he knows Zach Ertz, no D Hop. I mean, this is the first time we're seeing him play without these guys. He's throwing to guys like Trey McBride and Michael Wilson now. You know what I mean? It's
Hollywood, and he.
Yeah.
I mean, like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thrown to Rondell Moore too before.
Last time he played, Hollywood was his third best option.
Yeah.
So it's a difference.
It is a difference. And then the other thing that's in their favor, though, Connor comes back today, and that's
is
big.
Connor playing? Is he playing?
Yeah, he got activated from IR, ready to go. Yeah,
that's gonna help. That'll help.
Yeah, cards activating
100%.
Connor in line to play. So yeah, that kind of makes me pause a little bit, but so I'm not sure in the desert, but yeah, that's what we got. Firepower game, Detroit Chargers, and we'll start with the Chargers, the home team. Who do you like here? Like, what do you think of the receivers? Keenan Allen. I don't know who else. Everett, Eckler, like Kelly.
Like Johnson's ever gonna play well?
Johnson. Yeah. Who do you like here?
Keenan Allen.
What was that?
Keenan Allen.
Just started.
Yeah, you got to start Keenan Allen here. You have to with the injuries to the Chargers. He's the security blanket. Eckler's going to see a little bit more targets, I feel. But here's the thing. Jared Goff's a little bit different when he's on the road. And that offense is nowhere near – I mean, you've seen what happened when they went to Baltimore. I mean, they got pummeled. It didn't even look like a game. Not that I'm thinking that's going to happen this time because I think Detroit's too good. But I do think that you could see what everyone thinks is a high offensive game. I could see this actually turn into a defensive game.
Interesting. Now, I guess why I'm thinking it's not going to be a Baltimore return, I don't think they're going to get ass kicked, is because the Chargers play in a dome. Detroit plays in a dome, where Baltimore's out in the elements on the Northeast.
That's
in a
true.
rainy, tough environment. Like, I feel like Hollywood's still Hollywood, and it's still a dome, and it still is state-of-the-art stadium with state-of-the-art equipment. And it's not the roughness of Baltimore in the hood, kind of thing, which I think is a thing. But I do agree that the home road splits for Goff are a thing, to monitor.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. So it's kind of funny. I was talking about the Laporta Ferguson situation and who I wanted to start there, and I was like debating, and I'm like in that Elite Eight, and we don't start that many players. I think 10, and I was like, well, holy shit! If I start Laporta, I already started Montgomery. I already started Amon Ra. Do I really start 3 Detroit Lions on the road? Like, does it even have any intelligence to this? Like, is there any intelligence to this when I have somebody? And then I pulled up Ratcliffe's rankings, and Ferguson was 8. I'm like, okay, that I can start the 8th best tight end. That makes sense.
In an 18 league,
sure. Laporta's number 1, and I'm like, why would I bench number 1? Like, that doesn't even. That's
he's got Laporta 1 this week, huh?
Yeah, so I was like, there's no logic to that. There's no logic to bench number 1. I'm like, I guess you just want the most points, right? Like, if fantasy's about getting the most points, then the most points, number 1 is likely to get more points than number 8. Like, it just, it doesn't matter how that math goes. Does it mean it will happen? No, it doesn't mean it will happen, but it's likely to happen.
I'm hoping it doesn't this week.
What was that?
So I'm hoping it doesn't this week.
Well, I'm going with that. I mean, and then I'm like, why do you have Ferguson on your team then if you're not going to play him? Like, that's the dumbest thing ever too. Like, in a shallow league like that, you don't have decisions. Like, you shouldn't have decisions to make. You should have on the onesie positions. You should have your guy, and then you should fill in the running backs and receivers and around it. Is kind of how I like to play fantasy. But so I was like, I don't know what to do with that mess, but because I'm going to play Laporta until I don't play Laporta anymore. Like, I shouldn't. That's where the problem is in the theory was. And then just kind of funny because I said to myself, and this is a guy I want to ask you about, is Jameson Williams. I decided, you know what? I'm not going to let Jameson Williams beat me on somebody else's team. So I picked him up. You probably saw that. And I did that because I do think that at some point there's a bit of a coming out party. What do you think? When is that going to happen?
It's going to be hit or miss with him. It's going to be boom or bust. There's just too many targets to go around with Montgomery coming back, Gibbs coming back. You got Amon Ra, you got Laporta. There's too many targets. I mean, Jameson Williams. I'm not saying he won't have a big game here or there, but the risk to reward of having him in your lineup is just, to me, is not worth it.
Okay, so you don't think that as things go, he's going to become a bigger role? Like, I mean, Bradley
for dynasty maybe, but redraft in an 18 league.
Oh no, yeah, no. I was playing that to make sure he doesn't have that boom week against me. But I'm more now thinking dynasty. Do you think that he's?
Yeah,
I think he's
the Lions are notorious for picking great players. I mean, they obviously seen something in Jameson Williams to come back and trade in the first round to get the guy. I don't think they did that, and now he's a bust. I just think that he had some misfortunes with his injury, and then he had the gambling thing, so he's behind right there. And then you had the coming out of Samuel Laporta, and then they went and got Gibbs. I mean, they just got so much offensive firepower.
I mean, even their defensive drafting is awesome. Like, they have the
in the back end. They got Hutchinson. I mean, Hutchinson fell in their lap. Let's be honest. He shouldn't have been there.
They're the team that drafts, and so I guess it wouldn't shock me if Jameson Williams was like a stud. So it doesn't seem that far fetched for him to be Tyreek Hill 2.0. I just, just kind of figuring out. And anyway, so I do have Jameson in one place this week, but I was amazed that Brad told me he's starting him a bunch of places, so I thought that was interesting. And so just kind of throwing that out there, he said he was going to start. Your favorite team, the New York Giants, 2-7 against Dallas, and so let's start with Dallas, and then we'll go to any guys that you're starting here that you say, man, you just got to start them. And
this one's tough because it could get ugly quick, and it could turn into just milk the clock. The guy I would probably favor the most out of all this would probably be Tony Pollard. I could see Dallas getting up early. Let's just get out of this game without injuries instead of trying to press the ball. I could also see this game being out of control by the fourth quarter, where Dak, CD, Pollard are not even playing. It could get that ugly. I mean, it did the last time. The Giants just they have nothing to play for right now. I mean, I like the Tommy DeVito. He brings more spunk. He brings more fire. I think that's the Giants have been missing that for 20 years now. Is a guy that rah in your face, amped up, pumped up. Let's go get him. It's just not going to be enough, and I don't know if the Giants have enough to keep it close. So, honestly, the guys that probably play the Giants guys. Go out there and start them all.
Yeah.
Well, throw 1,000 times.
So I was thinking I was going to play. I'm hoping Magger may talk him out of it. I was liking Dak and I was liking CD in this game. Figured
and they may do enough in the first few quarters to get it over the hump. Here's the thing: it's Dallas can score a lot of points. I don't think the Giants are going to score a lot of points, and I think that could,
No, I think you're right.
I mean, they scored 40 the last time, and Dak had a terrible game against the Giants. He and no offense to his own, the defense scored a couple touchdowns. You know what I mean? It could just get that ugly again where, CeeDee Lamb isn't the guy that's getting 12 targets because they don't need to. You know what I mean? They don't need to throw it to him 12 times. They don't need the chance to have him get hurt. So that's a tough thing with this game. If it was two good teams, I'd be all in on the CeeDee Lambs. I think he's playing out of this world. The Dak Prescott. But to me, it just seems like a game where I think they're going to rely on Tony Pollard to kind of just be the bell cow, run the ball, short pass checkdowns. I think Dak still has a good game. I still think, you're going to see the Ferguson still have a good game. I just don't know if you're going to see like that massive, 11 catch, 140-yard performance out of CeeDee Lamb that we've, seen the last few weeks.
Okay.
I just don't think they need to. I don't think they need to do that to win.
Okay. What about I guess that's interesting. What about the Giants side? I mean, Saquon. Is there any receivers that you like in this game? Wandell, or is he not the guy?
It seemed like as far as your fantasy football lineups, it's tough. If to start any of those guys and trust them with that Dallas defense, but it seems like he kind of relied a little bit on Wandale, a little bit more than what Tyrod was relying on him for. And I think you're going to see the Giants' game plan this week is going to be get rid of the football quickly, and that really does favor Wandale a lot. In DeVito, he likes to throw the deep ball. I can see Jalen Hyatt getting out. Getting deep on a ball or two. If you're looking for like a really deep play and you're stuck between, Jalen Hyatt and, Mac Hollins or somebody or something of that nature, Hyatt, I could see going out and actually contributing this week. I mean, the Giants are going to start playing these guys more. They're,
you have to start Hodge this week because Mac Hollins is out. So.
Oh, right. So, okay, there you go. All right. So, I could see that being a better play than that, only because the Giants are going to have to throw the ball. You know what I mean? I actually sat Saquon Barkley this week over ETN. I put ETN in. I had ETN, Eckler.
What do you think about Bellinger? I talked Brad out of starting Bellinger last night. Told him, start Irv Smith. Like he had Irv Smith out, Bellinger in. I'm like, I trust Joe Burrow to throw the ball to somebody more than I trust DeVito to throw the ball to somebody. Like that's why.
Well, I tell you, DeVito didn't do bad. I mean, he was 15 to 20 for 150 and a touchdown and 2 picks, but in garbage time. But
I think that's kind of like the Dobbs syndrome. Nothing on tape, nothing. Weren't expecting.
I would start Irv Smith over Danny Bellinger.
Yeah. So I was like, you can look at what Bellinger was last year, but here's the deal. Now. It could be got back to the syndrome that he's done all the reps with Bellinger all year, and it's very secure because they both were on second team together, doing second team things.
I would like to see Bellinger get the ball more, but I just think it's going to over Irv Smith. I'd rather just take Irv Smith and take my chances.
Yeah. Well, that was more of a trust. So that's that game. Washington, Seattle here as we have the last Sunday afternoon game. The whole way out in Seattle, traveling cross country, Ron Rivera, his group, Sam Howell playing real well.
Mm-hmm.
But Seattle does bring different defensive fronts that Sam Howell's never seen before. And, I mean, Jamal Adams comes from everywhere. Like they put him coming from everywhere.
I could see this being a problem for Sam Howell this week. I think you're going to see Seattle try to control the clock, keep Sam Howell and that offense off the field. Howell likes to, push the ball down the field. And you've seen even the Giants, as poorly as they played this year, they were able to get Sam Howell often. Their line can't hold up enough to say so. You got Leonard Williams that just went there. I think he'll be, a big help as far as preparing Seattle for the game. And I think you'll see Howell struggle here today, and I think that you'll see Seattle come away with this game at home.
Yeah, what do you think? You think Kenneth Walker comes back and has a reasonable game again? He had 4 points PPR last week, and
I think he has better performance than last week.
He
looks so good. He looks so good. It's just a shame that he wasn't getting the touches that I do think he has a better game. I think he has a
poor defensive front. I mean, they traded away the defensive front.
I mean, Washington almost kind of threw in the towel when they gave away their guys, and then it's like I don't really know where Washington's going. I mean, if they think Sam Howell's their future, which I can understand why they would feel that way, why don't you keep the guys around him and continue to build? I mean, you give away 2 of your young pass rushers. I mean, you don't just get those guys.
Well, I think that was contract related, and I think that might be to bring in some of the guys to build around Sam Howell. And they did. I will give them this: they did get high early day 2 picks for their guys. Like they got some places where they can reset the clock and really go get.
When you saw Chase Young for 3rd, and that's not an early 3rd.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the end of the 3rd round. That's at the end of the 3rd round, because that was a compensation pick. And to just see Giants got rid of Leonard Williams for a 2nd.
Yeah.
So you almost feel
I was more thinking the Bears 2nd going there.
The Bears 2nd.
Like that feels like a pretty good.
That is a good pick. That is a good pick. But I don't know that it is contract related. You don't want to sink a ton of money into those guys while you still are trying to build an offensive line. And building an offensive line is going to get expensive. But but here's the thing with Washington that's scary with Sam Howell is that was Ron Rivera's guy. What if Ron Rivera's not there?
Yeah, no, that's right. And the patience. Oh, I mean, I saw the look on the face of the Carolina owner that on Thursday night, and that doesn't look. They've had 5 coaches in 5 years since he's been the owner, and we might be in the 6th coach in 6 years here pretty quick.
No. Frank Reich gets a 2nd year. I mean, you can't do that to a rookie quarterback.
I mean, well, five coaches in 5 years under David Tepper.
And I'm not so sure that Frank Reich wanted Bryce Young. I think he just got stuck with him.
Yeah, he might be. I mean, it could very well could be. I mean, Bryce Young looks a lot littler than Frank Reich when they stand next to each other. Both former quarterbacks.
Bryce Young does not look like a quarterback to me.
Yeah, so it's it. Yeah, definitely interesting. The Jets and Vegas. That's our Sunday night game.
Yeah, I think you're in for a low-scoring game, defensive battle. You basically got 2 quarterbacks that are still trying to figure it out. I mean, we're not really sure about O'Connell, but we've seen enough of Wilson to know that. Oh, baby,
when's Rodgers come back? When's Rodgers come back?
I don't know. He's doing his natural healing stuff. It's interesting to see if he kind of figured it out.
I mean, 3 weeks. I mean, I heard it's weeks. Not like they're.
I still think the Jets win. I think the Jets beat them. I think that the Jets defense is going to have a heyday on the Raiders this week. It's easy. I can't say it's easy, but they come out last week out of emotion when they fired Josh McDaniels, and Pierce came up, gave him a rah-rah speech, and you go beat the shitty Giants that really aren't that good of a football team, and really they're at the bottom of the league. I think, but when you see the Jets, I don't think that they're much better than the Giants, but they have more pieces than the Giants. They got a solid defense. They got a great run game. And they got just enough in the passing game to keep you honest, where they can move the chains if they had
Well,
to.
I think Garrett Wilson is better than anything the Giants have.
Correct.
I mean,
And so is Brees Hall, probably, essentially. I mean,
well, I mean,
at least
you could put Saquon and Brees Hall in the same category,
Right.
but the offensive line, you can't put in the same category.
Right.
And then the defense, you can't put closely in the same category. And let's be real, the Giants quarterback got hurt early in the game, so
but it didn't look good. It didn't look good even before that.
Yeah,
so.
it did. But I guess what I'm saying that feels like but rah can happen the first. The first game, but it can happen the first 15 minutes. It may not look good the first 15 minutes.
Right.
And it's hard to know how it goes.
Who you got in this game? I got Jets and under.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Jets are going to win, and it's that way. How about Denver Buffalo? Could be interesting in my mind. You tell me what.
I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think
you'll
see. Oh, I got Buffalo win. I freaking hate Denver.
Yeah, I'm not asking you who you want.
I got Buffalo. I got Buffalo winning.
I wanted to know.
I got Buffalo winning. I think high scoring game. I think Josh Allen has a great game. Actually, I think Russell Wilson has a good game too. I think he does have a good game, but I don't think that Denver's got enough to match Buffalo. I think Buffalo was content to where they were, and I think that they thought they could win the way they were. But they're still a really good football team with really good football players, and I think that McDermott's going to make the changes that he needs in order to get them back in play. And ultimately, they got to run the ball a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just they don't run the ball at all.
I'm surprised that they don't use Javonte Williams more than they do. I mean, that's a surprise for me, but just kind of saying that, I guess I'm waiting for I've been buying Russell Wilson, or I have some Russell Wilson. I think he's good at the beginning of the year, but I also think he's not good at the end of the year, and I'm just waiting for that switch to go. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is the week that the switch goes, that he all of a sudden sucks, or if that's next week or the following week or Thanksgiving is when it happens. But I mean, I guess I think it could go one of two ways. It could be Sean Payton is just a great coach, and he comes out and schemes the hell out of this game, and they actually come into Buffalo and win, and everybody's like, what? Or it could be like Russell Wilson becomes a clown and doesn't do anything, and they turn the ball over 17 times, and it just is just okay, yeah, he's not our quarterback anymore. We're done. I feel like that's the outcomes. It can be that range. It can be that crazy. I'd actually almost be shocked if it's close, if the game is close. I think it'll be a boat race either way, and I could see it being a boat race both ways. As crazy as that is, Denver and Buffalo weather is the same. Everything. So
playing in Buffalo though, and a Sunday night or what's a Sunday tonight game?
A Monday night game.
Monday night game. Yeah, it's and I think the weather's going to be kind of nasty.
Well, but that's Denver weather, right? Snowing all the time. They have blizzards up there.
Yeah, but it's Josh Allen time, baby.
No, I agree. And it might not be. I mean, I haven't seen enough of. Wonder if that's why Russell Wilson doesn't play good. It's in weather. I mean, it could be. I wouldn't be shocked to see. I do think
he's going to get a first chance tomorrow to see what he's got.
Yeah, I don't. I never think that he does well at the end. I feel like he's always the first half MVP, and then he falls off.
This year.
So, what?
Not
last year. But if you look at his career, he's definitely a starter. And then you got to get rid of him before he turns into.
That's all you can sell.
So yeah, I'm just kind of that's where I'm at with that game, and but yeah, wow, we broke down a whole slate here. Hopefully that helps. I feel like I have I try to have as many defined decisions when I have my lineups as I can. I mean, I try to have a whole lot of things where I have to go to the rankings or see who's better. I think you did talk me out of a little bit of Dak. I was thinking Dak and CeeDee Lamb made a lot of sense for DFS, but I tend to agree with you that it can see how it could go another way. So,
yeah, I mean, I think Cowboys put up the points. I just don't know. I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough call.
Yeah, I mean,
That could be a
sort of
blowout
like,
early, and you
I'm
could
not sure if I like. I'm not sure if I like Goff or if I like Herbert better, but I kind of like that game if I'm looking at quarterbacks. Like I see how that could make
listen.
some sense.
Maybe you should just go with Dak and CeeDee Lamb. Considering I talked you out of it, and
Yeah.
probably would have been a bad move if you'd switch.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that I mean,
The
Dak
matchup's phenomenal for Dallas.
and Dak is the third best quarterback on the list. I mean, and I'm not a big CD guy. And what'll probably happen is they'll do terrible, and I'll be like, that's why I fucking hate Dak. I hate Dak. I mean, I hate CD Lamb. Like
They're home. They're home too. I mean, it's going to be. I
they're
don't think it's going to be
score.
good, buddy. I don't think it's going to be good for the Giants. I don't know what they'd run the score up.
Don't you think though? I feel like they'll win 56-0 and have no shame. Like they won't. Yeah. Right. I mean, they would try to win 56-0. I could see them doing it. Yeah.
Don't text me if they do.
Well, I'm just saying, I can see them doing it. Like they're not. It's a division game. Like they're not going to be like, oh, let's take it easy on the.
They don't want to get hurt.
No, that's true.
And that's the thing. So I could see them pulling their starters if the game gets out of hand, just to prevent injury.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like that game as far as fantasy goes. But yeah, you got to start CeeDee Lamb. You got to start Dak if you got him. You got to start Ferguson if you got him. You got to start Pollard. You got to start these guys. Barkley. You got to start them. It just that game can get ugly and hurry, and I don't see a rookie quarterback against that defense with that terrible offensive line. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen, but I can't see it happening. We'll see.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks, Dan. Get to your Sunday. I mean, I know we're coming at it fast and furious, and good luck today.
Yeah.
I'm looking to get to the playoffs. This is the time. The playoff push is here, and now we go for the gusto. So
That's right.
So long for now. We'll see you on the trade show after week 10 is done.